Let's react to this video by Tom Peat, How to Reverse Hair Loss in 12 Months.
Most shampoos and conditioners are not there for the care of your hair. They're full of parabens and all these other harmful chemicals, do you know what I mean, that are not good for your hair. So again, it was something that I was like, whatever. I used to be like, wash my hair with, I don't care, wash and go, or Head and Shoulders. Then you find out they're some of the worst brands to wash your hair with.
Yeah, we'll see what he has to say further, but definitely the shampoo and conditioner that we use plays a big role in our overall hair health.
I'm here just to talk about my personal hair growth and how I've got my hairline to come back, if you like. It's been something I've been playing around with myself. So I've just been learning a lot along the way.
It's always fun to see these personal journeys. I mean, there's a lot of content out there on the web, and I know people sometimes don't know where to turn, but some people have found what works for them, and it's cool to see. And sometimes it's best practices, and sometimes it's just kind of chance that led them to improve their hair. But either way, I think there's always something that we can learn from people's individual journeys.
They do a post a couple of months ago on my progress so far.
All right, so look at that. So from the top left, what we're seeing is nearly a Norwood 3 type of situation with frontotemporal recession and a receding hairline. And then we can see the progression. It looks like on the top right, he's gained some of that frontotemporal recession back, and it looks even better on the bottom left. And then it looks like now some of that hair that was stubby or shorter in that frontotemporal area now looks longer, and it is a more impressive hairline. So let's see what he did to get that back.
So I started it in like May 2022, the 28th of May to be specific, I believe. It was around there where I took my first photo, and you can see that I was kind of receding there, you know. So, but honestly, I wasn't too bothered. I mean, it's just what it is. And it wasn't until I started seeing more and more like brands that were really promoting hair growth and growing it back again. And
yeah, those are definitely some of the big players, but of course now there's also Feel Confident, which is a fantastic brand that I helped start, and we're focused on optimizing people's hair health.
The reason I'm doing this video is to show people my personal progress, what I do. Obviously, it's up to debate. It's just I've gone off the research and gone off trial and error, really.
And remember, our bodies are all built differently, so sometimes it takes trial and error, even if you're going to a doctor who's giving you different medications and other things to try. It can take trial and error, even if it means the dosage of a medication, to see what works best for your body.
I just want to start off by saying the number one thing that you're probably going to have to take on board is this is now going to be like a daily practice. So just like brushing your teeth every day, this is now probably going to be a new self-care thing to add on to that, you know, because if you're not really willing to do that, then you may as well stop watching right now.
Yeah, he's right. It takes consistency with hair health. It's not something that, you know, you go and you do once and you can just forget about it. I think people shouldn't even look at transplants that way. I think it's best to look at overall hair health as a combination of non-surgical things that you might do, as well as potential surgery for the right situation. But to think that it's a one and done type of thing with any type of treatment modality is usually setting yourself up for disappointment.
I haven't had any transplants at all. Everything that I've done is been through certain products, certain lifestyle changes. It was just something, like I say, well, I wasn't too bothered about it. I mean, it's just hair at the end of the day. But then I started to really go, you know what, I'll try, see what happens, these couple of products.
And look at that beard that he has. That's impressive.
So I did that, and I started to see like some progress, and I was like, oh my God, it's coming back, you know. So, and ever since then, now I'm kind of like on the opposite way. I kind of just, no, I do care, you know, because you see results, and it's a bit like, well, actually, maybe it does make a difference.
And in the early phases of hair loss, it is possible to get a lot of it back like he did in this situation. But again, without the proper maintenance, you're going to lose what you've gained. And that's, I think, what he was alluding to.
Yeah, my progress so far is going really well. I'm really amazed about how my hairline's looking now.
Man, now he's just showing off.
I wasn't bold in so much here, it was more just like receded. So, which, bearing in mind, it's much easier to come back here than it is here. Studies show that it's called male pattern baldness. That's the problem. So I want to start off with what the problem is and what actually causes it.
Remember that male pattern baldness, or androgenetic alopecia, has many different variations, right? Way beyond the Norwood scale. So when people ask me in consultation, oh, what's my Norwood? I tell them that clinically it's not the most relevant or significant thing. It's more about trying to see, does their pattern align with male pattern loss? And honestly, there's closer to hundreds, if not thousands, of variations of male pattern loss. It's not just like these specific patterns that everyone has to fall into. There's a lot of nuances and different shades of gray, essentially.
Basically, without getting too scientific, I'm going to make it super simple.
Oh, we like getting scientific here.
Men, males produce obviously a lot more testosterone, right? So what happens is testosterone is getting converted into something called DHT.
I just want to point out here that there are many different types of hair loss that we talk about on this channel, right? It's not only androgenetic alopecia. That's the most common for men and for women, but there are other forms. Like me, for example, as you guys might know, I have an autoimmune type of hair loss. That's not androgenetic alopecia, that's alopecia areata. So just keep that in mind as he's going through this hormonal type of explanation. This is referencing androgenetic alopecia and not other forms of alopecia.
So what happens is DHT actually shrinks hair follicles. That's the basis of the hair loss. That's it, Pretty much 9 out of 10 times that's what happens. Some other circumstances are different. Sometimes for some males and some individuals, that's the main thing you've got to cover, is to block the DHT internal and external. Me personally, I didn't go down any drug route at all, but some people may have to, unfortunately. I think I was quite lucky to capture mine when I did. It wasn't too far gone. But then again, if you look at the photo, it does look like it was pretty going back,
And while he's seeing these benefits now, I think without the drugs, it might be difficult to maintain, but I guess we'll see how he fares over time.
So the first thing to take into account is obviously this has now become a daily practice for you. It's going to be, you're going to have to schedule this in when you're going to brush your teeth.
And some people ask me, why do I have to take medications? I looked online and I saw that there are all these other things. There's laser lights and there's microneedling, and you've talked about it on your channel. There's all these shampoos. There's all these things I could do. There's oils, right? Can't I just use oils? Or what about that great Nutrafol? I saw amazing things on that, right? They ask me these things, and I understand, and I think that it's great if you can take a drug-free route. Unfortunately, most of those different types of modalities for potentially addressing hair loss are usually not potent enough to do enough for most people, especially over the course of years. So what often happens is that people just depend on these weaker type of treatments, and over time what they find is that they continue to lose their hair. And after a while, it's difficult to bring it back. And then they have to come in for surgery, right? So it's usually best to try to prevent it early. But the prevention typically involves medications such as finasteride, because that's a much more potent type of way to address continued hair loss, rather than just depending on like a laser cap or a shampoo or something that might help, but is usually not strong enough to deliver the type of results that people hope for and expect.
We want to get our hair into a growth state.
Before focusing on hair growth, it's important to think about hair loss prevention. So that's where finasteride and minoxidil work really well together, because finasteride is going to prevent further loss of your hair, while minoxidil will help to strengthen each individual hair follicle and strengthen it, give it some width, and give you overall increased fullness. They work well together. So just being focused on the growth element and not on preventing further loss can be problematic.
So the first thing we need to initially get in is an ingredient called minoxidil, right? Minoxidil is basically what you find in Rogaine, Regain and all that sort of stuff, which has proven to give results for people with products here.
Again, with minoxidil, it's not so much for prevention, but it's for this kind of increased fullness. And that's because each individual hair is just getting thicker. And as you increase that caliber for thousands and thousands of hairs, now you're going to start to see additional fullness. But remember, there's another way to deliver minoxidil. It doesn't have to be just topical. There's an oral formulation that we've talked about numerous times on the channel. And while not FDA approved, we know through numerous studies that it's a very effective and overall very safe way to help boost your hair. So keep that in mind, and there's a link to our video on that topic below.
The problem is with those ones is they're highly expensive for them. Super expensive to get those.
And the interesting thing is that oral minoxidil is actually a generic, so it's going to be much cheaper than spending money on, say, Rogaine that you're going to apply topically, where it's going to be much less potent, much weaker, much less impressive, and you're going to have residue on the skin surface and the possibility of contact dermatitis. So there's a lot of issues. So again, check out that video, and I think you'll learn everything you need to know about minoxidil.
So the main percentage in Rogaine is like, or Regaine, whichever one, is like 2%. So what the finding is, though, you need to have one that's more like 5%, a much higher dose. Now, you can get this in drops form.
Remember, the pill form is 100%, so you're going to see a much different type of result comparing the oral formulation versus the topical. But again, as you get to these more effective type of formulations, you're also going to have the potential for increased side effects. So you need to weigh the pros and cons of that.
You can get this in foam. I recommend the drops if you're looking for that speedy process.
And he says he didn't go the drug route, but minoxidil is a drug. So you have to just, weigh what people say and take it with a grain of salt, because technically that is a drug. That is a medication. Whether you're applying it topically or taking it as a tablet, it's still a medication. So essentially he did go the drug route, at least in part, for his hair restoration journey.
So you apply that twice a day, wherever need the hair growth back. So I normally do mine either in the morning and then one later at night. So what that's going to do is what minoxidil actually does is promote blood flow back to the area again.
And there's good data to suggest that just applying it once a day is pretty much as good as applying it twice a day. So some people will just use the topical minoxidil once a day, and when it's taken as a tablet, it's also consumed once a day.
Minoxidil actually does is promote blood flow back to the area again. So in my circumstance, because the DHT has been blocked off, it promotes that blood flow again.
So what I think he's saying is that he thinks that the minoxidil is blocking his DHT, but in reality, that's not what it's doing. It's increasing the anagen phase of the hair growth cycle and potentially increasing blood flow, but it's not reducing his DHT levels. There's no data to suggest that minoxidil reduces your DHT. The blocking of DHT, or more technically, the enzyme that converts testosterone to DHT, is done by finasteride, which is a completely different medication than minoxidil. And we have videos on finasteride, so make sure to check that out below.
Obviously, you need to keep using it. It's one of those. It's pretty safe. It's had some really great results from thousands of people, and it's approved by the FDA. It's really safe. So it is made to be long term.
He is right about the need to do this long term, and I commented on that earlier. But as far as the safety component of it, yes, the topical is going to be safer than the pill form. But remember that topical minoxidil can still cause some issues, both from a contact dermatitis, where your skin can be irritated because of some of the components that are in the topical minoxidil, but it can also lead to some systemic side effects. And that could be increased hair growth in areas other than on the scalp. That could also be things like lightheadedness, dizziness, palpitations. You can get all of that from topical minoxidil, not just the oral form.
It is made to be long term. So this could be something you're going to be doing probably potentially forever, which is quite daunting for some people.
Yeah, once you get off of it, you'll find that over the course of months, you'll lose some of those gains that you've made. And that can be very frustrating for many people.
We need to block the DHT, the conversion from testosterone to DHT.
Okay, yeah. So he said it right there that in addition to the effects of minoxidil to help him with strengthening his hair, he's also looking to block DHT. So let's see what he uses for that.
Something I don't do, obviously, there's a drug for this called finasteride. I believe it's called finasteride. That is a drug that actually helps block DHT. Whereas me being me, I wanted to go for more sort of natural approach.
Yeah, a lot of people are just so scared about taking finasteride, and it's because they read online about these sexual side effects, and while it is true that they can occur, again, they occur at a very low incidence, so about 2 to 3% for 1 milligram of finasteride daily. But remember that some people take finasteride every other day, every third day. They cut down the dose to 0.5 milligram. They'll sometimes do a topical formulation of finasteride. What I can tell you clinically is that while the incidence that's reported in the literature is true, once we start going down to lower concentrations of finasteride for people who actually do have side effects, what we find is that eventually, once we go low enough, we can eliminate the side effects and still keep them on some form of finasteride to help keep their hair loss at bay. And typically we can strike a balance in pretty much everybody. So as much as people are so scared of it, if it's managed properly and properly adjusted to meet your needs, then it can still work really well. And I don't think it's something that people should be so deathly afraid of. And post-finasteride syndrome is still a hotly debated topic.
One of the best ingredients I found with that, this is a supplement I take as well. There's a couple of supplements I take. So number one is saw palmetto at anywhere between 300 to 500 milligrams. There still needs to be a lot more research done on this. Because if you look it up, it would say that it's inconclusive. But I think it says like 60% of people who took this saw results in a study. So again, you can look all these ingredients up yourself. So that's what I take. I take the 500 milligram dose a day.
Yeah, saw palmetto definitely has good research to support its use at reducing DHT levels. And that's why it made it into my shampoo, conditioner, and foam formulations in our hair care line on Feel Confident.
And what that does is that's supposed to naturally block DHT.
Remember, while it can reduce the levels of DHT, it's not going to be as potent as something like finasteride. So again, both in terms of efficacy, but then of course side effects as well. So you can still get side effects from ingesting saw palmetto. The same sexual side effects, right, if you're very sensitive to that DHT reduction. But it's likely not going to be as severe as a side effect you might get on finasteride. But on the flip side of that, the effects for your hair will also not be as significant.
And then the other ingredient I take is something called biotin. I take quite a high dose of this, which at 10,000 mcgs.
Remember that most people get enough biotin in their actual diet, so most people do not need supplementation of biotin. And there's no data to suggest that if you don't have a deficiency of biotin, that just taking more biotin is somehow going to help your hair grow even better.
I'm taking it at this level for so long, maybe a couple of years, but then I'll drop back a bit. That's also like a DHT blocker, but it's all to do with cell regrowth, biotin.
Yeah, biotin does not block DHT levels in any significant way.
And it helps obviously with other things as well, but the main thing is that it helps with rejuvenating hair and skin and nails, helps with all that sort of process. So that's another ingredient to take, that I take. Again, this is all what I do. I'm not saying this is the right thing, but I just wanted to share this out there with everyone else that then. So obviously that's one battle to block DHT internally, but also we need to block it externally as well. So the minoxidil will help with that, and finasteride definitely will if you're struggling, if you've got real bad hair loss, But hopefully you can, if you're at my stage, you can capture it really soon on. Again,
you want to catch the hair loss early, but in a significant way, so that it doesn't continue to reduce. If someone has really advanced hair loss, like a Norwood 567, there's still some arguments to be made for being on finasteride, but it's not like at that point it's going to have as robust or as dramatic of an impact as it will when you still have great hair to protect.
Shampoos and conditioner, that's the next thing to consider. There's two brands that I take. Again, I'm not affiliated with any brand, it's just the stuff that I take. Most shampoos and conditioner are not there for the care of your hair. They're full of parabens and all these other harmful chemicals, do you know what I mean, that are not good for your hair. So again, it was something that I was like, whatever. I used to be like, wash my hair with, I don't care, wash and go, or Head and Shoulders. Then you find out they're some of the worst brands to wash your hair with, because they just increase that hair loss. So there's two brands that I take, which is, one is Hims, which I'll put here in the description, and the other one's called Keeps. Those two are really great brands for their shampoo and conditioner because they have saw palmetto and biotin in them. I like to go between the two.
Yeah, so that's the competition. But with the Feel Confident brand, what we tried to do was not just make a shampoo and conditioner that felt really nice. We worked with a chemist with 40 plus years of experience in making shampoos for very large companies. So not only does it feel nice and has a pleasant smell and all that, but we also wanted to make sure that it had the right key ingredients. And surely saw palmetto is one of them, and you saw that Hims and Keeps has that. But in addition to that, pumpkin seed oil also has wonderful DHT blocking abilities, and that's been supported in the literature. And we did a video on looking at the literature and discussing that and pointing out all those studies for you guys. So make sure to check out that video that we did around the time I think that maybe he dropped this video. But since all of that, in April of 2024, we released finally our shampoo and conditioner, which people seem to love. And so we've got pumpkin seed oil, in addition to the saw palmetto, for the DHT blocking properties and for the stimulating properties, something closer to what minoxidil would do, but on the more natural side, we included curcumin and caffeine that both have a role in increasing blood flow. So we've really thought it out, as far as giving you a shampoo and conditioner and a thickening foam that can really help with your overall hair health. In addition, we made sure to avoid harmful, harsh sulfates. Also, we're cruelty-free, paraben-free, hypoallergenic, and vegan.
Because also you can still get your minoxidil from there. But again, if you're in the UK, you may have to get it prescribed.
We also have some prescription hair loss medications, so make sure to check that out on feelconfident.com.
There's something to note about minoxidil, is that it also says it may not work for receding hairline, but it works more for hair. But as you can see, it's working pretty well for me.
I've found that with the oral formulation of minoxidil, I do see some improved thickness to the hair in not just the crown, but also other areas of the scalp, especially the DHT sensitive zone. So I don't think it's just selective for the crown when you're dealing with oral minoxidil, which again is more potent than topical formulation.
But it just to note, it will say it's specifically made for the egg in the nest, at the back of the head rather than the front. But I read that and I thought, okay, well, if it's going to grow there, then it should be fine here, right? So, and it's, like I say, it's been fine for me, but it is important to note it does say that. So try not to be too put off from that. But yeah, the shampoos and conditioners, like I say, they have the saw palmetto, they have the biotin, them two brands.
And I specifically kept biotin out of our formulations because there's just not enough evidence in the literature to support its use in adding it to, say, a shampoo for the overall improvement of your hair.
Again, because it's blocking the DHT externally as well as internally. That's the basis of getting your hair back.
Yeah, I think his whole idea of external versus internal DHT blocking is somewhat flawed because technically all of the DHT blocking is occurring internally. It's just that some of the blocking is affecting the actual hair follicles, and that's where we see the impact on preventing further hair loss. But it's technically still an internal type of effect rather than something that's just happening on the skin surface. Most of these agents that are intended for promoting our hair health are doing so by being absorbed into our bloodstream, and that can happen by ingesting the medication, or it can happen by applying a medication topically, such as topical finasteride or topical minoxidil, where these medications or ingredients are actually being absorbed into our skin and having some impact on the area that we're trying to treat.
You need to block that DHT and put your hair back into a growth state. That's it. That's the basis of the whole thing. But honestly, that's pretty much about it. Another thing that contributes to hair loss is certain hair products, like gels and hair grooming stuff. They're not there to make your hair healthy. They're there just to style it. But I did find a product that works amazingly if you still wanted to use not hair styling stuff, but that has growth properties in it. So again, this is from Keeps. It's actually like a thickening pomade. What I like about this product in particular is that it's infused with saw palmetto.
And this is quite a thick type of product. What we did was we created a thickening foam, and we also have the same key ingredients that are in our shampoo and conditioner in the thickening foam. So saw palmetto, pumpkin seed oil, curcumin, caffeine, that's in the thickening foam, and it can also be used as a styling product. So on wet hair, you can use it for styling, but it's not going to be that super thick consistency that you would get with a pomade. So you just have to decide what type of thickness are you really looking for with your styling product.
And biotin, green tea, and caffeine. So it's got the same ingredients as the shampoo and conditioner.
I don't see pumpkin seed oil on their ingredient list. And there is great data to support the use of pumpkin seed oil as a natural DHT blocker.
I mean, like I say, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's no like, oh my God, it's this new thing. No, these things have been around for a while, but it might just take a little bit of your own research just to really see how you respond. Like I say, this is just something that I've done and helped me. So my idea is I want to help others because I've done it, and it's like, look, listen, you want to dispel a lot of the myths. There's a lot of myths out there that's like, oh yeah, while it is true, obviously there is a sequence there, obviously for the hair loss from genetically.
Thanks, Tom, for sharing your journey and for giving people so many tips and overall, I think, great advice on how they can help improve their hair situation. And we try a lot on this channel to break through a lot of these different myths and debunk them and to give you the essentials of what you really need to optimize the state of your hair. So make sure to subscribe to our channel if you aren't already.